Hey guys, welcome to the review of the Vostok Amphibia. This particular reference number is, I think, 120849. But I'll correct that if it's wrong.
Okay, so tell us how you got into Vostok watches.
Essentially, I was browsing through YouTube like every other watch enthusiast there. And then, because I really wanted all types of mechanical and automatic pieces. That's still what I'm about. That's the stuff I'm most interested in. And I wanted to get them. I wanted to own them. And being a student, I mean, funds are limited, etc. And then you look for the least expensive ones you can get so you can try out as many as possible. So then I came upon Vostok, and so many people on YouTube criticized it, especially all over the internet, because most people don't understand the watch. Because they unscrew the crown and they're like, oh, this is crappy engineering. But it's quite the converse. It's sort of cheap engineering, but it's really interesting. So I wanted to get a piece that was inexpensive, and because I wanted to get it quickly. I just didn't want to sit there saving for years to get one really cool piece at the time. And so I was like, okay, now I want a fun watch.
Or of course you do want to like save for that piece, but you want to scratch in.
You want stuff along the way, you know?
Yeah, along the way. Like,
You want something to excite you now and then. So and the dials are insane. All the watches, the Commanderski and the Amphibia, they have such intricate and exquisite dials, and I found it so surprising how inexpensive they were, and how sort of historically relevant the piece is. I mean, you can compare it to most big name brands, because essentially this was the Soviet Union's watch.
Yeah, exactly. No, and as we said from on a previous video, this is how you get vintage watches with being new.
Exactly, yeah.
The movement has so much history.
It's been frozen in time, especially the movement, and a lot of the entire watch essentially has been frozen in time. And but the thing is, they were always sold. That's so unique about this. Is the only brand, Vostok's the only brand, I think, that has stayed the way it was incepted. You know,
since the 80s, like they've just been frozen.
Yeah, and it's just stayed that way, and it's amazing.
Or at least the engineering, because I do think that there has been a lot of like R&D on like the faces.
Yeah,
because the designs they get is so nice.
Yeah, and it's very inexpensively done, but it doesn't feel that way. It's a really solid piece. You wouldn't be able to tell the price of it if you didn't know what it was, and you compared it to any other sort of diver. It could be a few thousand for all you know.
Okay, so let's bring it to this watch we have here today, the Vostok Amphibia.
Yeah.
As we can see from this piece, it is a grey dial. Tell us about the grey dial.
So it's not exactly a grey dial. It's a sunburst champagne silver dial. Where it really depends on the lighting.
Ooh, that's what I really like.
Yeah, that's what's fantastic about this particular reference, and that's why I picked this over the millions of other ones. And what's so special to me is that's what sunburst styles typically do. They shine more in the light. But the thing is, on the picture so I bought this watch on Amazon, and on the display picture there, the dial looked mildly salmon. It kind of looked salmon pink colored, ever so slightly. And I was like, okay, this is already really cool. But I knew from experience that none of the stuff on Amazon looks exactly the same when you actually get it. So I was like, okay, if it's anything even close to that, I'm going to be happy. So I bought the watch, and this is almost 2 years ago. And it arrived about 2 weeks later, I think. And it was really fascinating. It was not that similar to the picture. It was not a salmon dial. It was a sort of silver sunburst style, mildly champagne depending on the light reflecting. So under different conditions, it can look slightly salmon, and that's what's so unique about this particular reference number.
No, Like I've seen it wear around the watch quite a lot, and what I really like about the watch is that it picks up your environment, and it changes the color according to the lighting that the environment you're at.
Yeah, it's so reflective, and it's a really nice sunburst effect on the dial.
Okay.
And moreover, it's quite clean. You don't have you just have these kind of printed indices, and you have the Lume pips. I mean, that's traditional Vostok.
Okay.
It's the same in the Komanditsky. But the dial is so clean. A lot of the Komanditskys and even let's say the Scuba Dude Amphibia, they have a sort of some kind of emblem or printing on the dial. It's a clean dial. It just has some text in Russian, and it essentially says Amphibia on the top, and it says 31 joules and probably made in Russia or something along the lines because it's in Russian.
Okay.
The date windows between the 4 and 5 o'clock. I think you've mentioned that you sort of prefer it to be there. I don't particularly care about it, but that's another fact. And another thing about the date is, like with any other Vostok, it's not a quick set date, and you have to physically roll over the time for it to change. And the only way to go ahead is to wind back before 12, and then it's a painful process. So I never ever set the date. I don't really care about that. It just runs on its own.
So then let's go through the specs. As you mentioned, it is not a quick set date. Do you know the dimensions?
Yeah, this is a 40 millimeter piece. I think most amphibians and Komanditskys are all 40 millimeters.
40.
But it sort of weighs a bit smaller, I would say. It doesn't wear that large. I mean, I don't particularly like pieces below 40 millimeters because it feels a bit too small for me, especially when it's not on a bracelet. But I really like the dimensions of this particular piece.
Okay. And
in terms of thickness, it's fairly thick, but not too obnoxiously thick.
Okay.
It's about 13 millimeters.
Does it feel solid?
Yeah, that's one thing about all Vostoks, I think, because I also have a Komanditsky, and when I first got that, it was quite heavy. I mean, for just the watch, it was on a cheap leather strap, fake leather strap that is really light. But it had some heft to it, and it felt really solid steel. And even the crystal on it, it's a domed crystal. It's probably some sort of mineral crystal, but it hasn't scratched, and it feels really solid.
Okay. And you have taken this watch into the sea,
Yeah, I've actually taken this into the sea, but I sort of regret doing that.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. It's not because it damaged the internals of the watch or water got in anything. It's an amphibia. It's supposed to be able to dive somewhere between 200 and 300 meters. I mean, Russian divers actually use this piece. But the thing is, it's a screw-down crown, and it's not the best screw-down crown.
Okay.
I think due to the stem mechanism where it's sort of like a free clutch, and it's very loose. The crown is the screws on the outside. It's on the outside casing of the watch, so it feels sort of like it's a bit difficult to describe, but it feels more industrial, and it sort of feels like a toothpaste screw, but if you think metallics, so some kind of paints that are in tubes, and then they have the really fine threading, so you can kind of hear it scratch as you unthread it.
Okay. So the threads can actually, you can hear the threads being.
And so the thing is, you can see the thread because it's on the outside sort of the case. So you can, even when you fully screw it in, you can see the last bottom line of thread. So that, since it's thread, it's constantly being sort of scratched and shit, and there's a lot of forces and there's a lot of friction there, so you can't really prevent that from rusting, and you can't coat that, you can't galvanize that. So there's that one line of thread that's got mild rust as a result of taking it in salt water.
Okay. So it's no
I
internal
didn't.
mechanism.
I didn't particularly wash it that thoroughly with clean water after, but I didn't expect that to happen.
Yes.
But this happened over 8 months ago, and it's not gotten worse. It's just mildly reddish brown, and that's fine. It hasn't spread across the other threads.
Okay. And then let's turn the watch. So that's actually something I kind of like of most Vostoks. They have
solid screw down case back.
The case back. They have personality, I think. I just like pointing it out because a lot of watches don't. They just go for the plain.
Flat case back without any engraving,
or just like a simple engraving or like an emblem.
Yeah,
Vostoks have personality. Yeah, I don't know. I really like that about them.
That's very true, and the entire watch is a complete polished finish, so it's quite reflective, and it looks a lot more expensive than it actually is. And another thing,
do you recall how much it was?
Yeah, I think I paid just over around 115 euros for it, and that included shipping.
Okay.
So it's absolutely reasonable.
Okay.
I mean, you can get the less expensive ones.
Yeah.
But I really wanted this dial. And the most surprising thing to me about this particular piece is actually the strap.
The strap.
Yeah. I was expecting a really hard, pathetic,
rubber strap.
Unflexible rubber strap. But it's the best rubber strap I've ever had. I've not had many rubber straps. I've had a Seiko Monster rubber strap, the one that comes on, and I hate that strap. It's so stiff despite wearing it for 2 years, and it gets scratched and sort of faded quite easily, and it's very uncomfortable on the wrist. But this this rubber, silicone, whatever, is so soft and supple, and then it has a lot of perforation, so it breathes really well. And it's just so pliable. And it hasn't changed. It has this really nice vanilla smell. People talk about that sort of vanilla scent on more expensive pieces on the straps, and it had that exact thing when I opened it up for the first time. And that's what really blew me away. I've never experienced a rubber strap more comfortable than this, and it's quite durable too.
And like that's something that comes with a lot of cheaper pieces. A lot of people just say, throw
out the strap, get the wash, throw out the strap. Yeah,
you put a NATO on it, put like an aftermarket strap on it, and it has hold true for a lot of like at least the cheaper pieces I own. It holds true, but it's quite amazing that it doesn't hold true in this case.
Yeah, it's so surprising, and I don't know if other amphibians have the same strap that come with it, but this particular one was fantastic.
Okay.
And another thing I'd like to highlight about the dial itself is the second hand, that it's blue. And what's unique about that is it's of course contrasting.
Yes.
And apart from that, in the bezel itself, if you look at these smaller markers between the minutes markers between 0 and 15, they're also filled in with the same blue.
Ooh.
And on a less expensive piece, you
see
would
the
really not
details
expect that.
Wow.
It's really
nice. They're actually putting a lot of like thought into the design and into the production of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And the Lume pretty much on all Vostoks is great. I think every Vostok I've seen, I mean, it doesn't last that long.
Okay.
But it's really bright.
Okay.
For at least a short while.
All right. Then I guess I only then have one last question. What do you think about the bezel?
It's a bit of an odd mechanism because there's no ratcheting. It's just a smooth turning bezel. And what's not so nice about that is if you've not turned it in a while, then I think it picks up a lot of sediment and stuff from water, and then it becomes really stiff.
Okay. So it's just a friction.
Yeah. But the weird thing is that once you start turning it quickly a bit, then all those sediments kind of get ground out. It's a bit like it acts a bit like a grinder. For any salt sediments or stuff in between, and then once you start moving it out a bit, you can see some of them falling out. It's a coin edge bezel, but it's not the easiest to turn.
Okay.
And I've never actually used the bezel on this because this just doesn't feel nice to turn. It has no ratcheting.
Okay. All right. Then that was our overall impressions. What do you think? You've already owned the watch 2 years.
I would, if I had enough funds, I would buy literally every Vostok. I would like to have a collection of maybe 100 Vostoks and 10 other different pieces because they're just so fun. I mean, it's a bit like Swatch. I feel like you can draw the comparison. I mean, it's like a second watch.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's not really a second watch, but it costs the same as a second watch. And there's so many fun dial combinations that you can just wear one every day of the week. Or every half day.
They're a fun wear as well because like the colors of the faces are like
quite outrageous,
quite unique. And then
But the only thing I really wish they would offer a case, see-through case back. I don't really care. Maybe even if the movement's not something spectacular to look at, I would still like to see it.
So that would be very interesting because I haven't actually seen the movements from Vostok. Now, of course, I bet they're not well polished or like very well designed.
Yeah, they have no reason to be particularly exquisite looking.
Exactly. But it would be interesting because it is a movement from the 80s. It is in-house movement. It's like it's a Russian engineered movement as well. So it would be interesting just to
we didn't cover the accuracy. It's not accurate. But I actually don't care about that. I mean, a lot of people, they get quite irritated by Vostoks for that reason, for not keeping much accuracy. But the thing is, it's about 30 seconds a day on average.
Yeah, so like good enough to the minute, good enough to the...
I actually think the Commanderski is a bit more accurate because it's manual.
Yeah, because it's manual mind.
And I think that would be about 5 to 10 seconds more accurate. But it also depends because it depends on whether you wear it or whether you let it sit. Because with this watch, I found that if you just wind it and let it sit, it kind of loses more time that way than when I wear it.
Then you wear it, and like of course that has to do, of course, with the rotor being winding the watch, and also with the heat.
Yeah, and also just do with just the gravity thing. I mean, to counteract it, I mean, your hand's like a tourbillon.
Your hand is like a tourbillon.
So. Yeah, that's specific to this piece. I mean, a lot of other pieces, they're a bit more accurate when you don't touch them. But I don't really care about the accuracy. I'm fine changing it every 3 days.
I mean, after all, we do have phones next to us, so...
Yeah, it's about the watch. It's not about the accuracy. And I think it has a beat rate of around 21,600. I think that's what it is on most Vostok pieces.
Okay.
And the other thing that they should change is the quickset date. I really like to have that.
But I do feel like then it would lose
some of its charm.
Yeah, some of its charm because, hey, we haven't touched this movement since the 80s. And you can see it, you can feel it.
That's true. And I don't really care about having the wrong date. A lot of people would, but I'm willing to oversee that. And overall, I think it's just a fantastic piece. I mean, you would particularly think that an inexpensive piece wouldn't last as long, but this has been solid, or more solid than any other expensive piece.
Okay.
And it doesn't scratch that easily as you would think either.
Okay.
I think it's
okay, so overall positive review.
I mean, if I was to bring such a watch to market, I know that it could be sold for a lot more.
Okay.
I mean, not particularly Vostok because of the current brand image, the name, and how everyone knows that this is what they retail for, and they're easy to get. But if you were to really manage your supply and demand chains and then reintroduce this as something new, the exact same thing, even with the quirks and all of the non-quickset date, you could probably sell it somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 euros.
Yeah, I can see it go for 250. And it's not a bad price for it.
3,000 euros.
3,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you'd have to take care of the quick set. Maybe, I guess you'd have to take care of the accuracy more than anything else. But if it was regulated and it was made slightly more accurate, the design is really fantastic.
Okay. So overall positive, and you would recommend people to
I think everyone
have a look
should
at it.
just own one. It's a bit like a Swatch. I think the idea behind Vostok.
So everyone should own Vostok.
Yeah.
Tell guys about your Vostok in the comment section down below.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. The people that watch this will probably already know about Vostok.
Yeah.
Because it's a very secular following.
Okay. So then tell us about your Vostok watches. Do you like them? Can you see the quirks and like...
Can you get past them? Can you own it despite
Can
the
you
wobbly
get past
crown?
them or can you appreciate them?
Yeah, I appreciate them. Most people don't. People particularly critique the crown.
Yeah. Then tell us about your experience with Vostok watches on the comment section down below. And then see you next time.